Hey guys, Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, one half of the team that powers DungeonSwag.com. And today we're gonna make some more tabletop scatter, and this will be like probably more of a fantasy deal. What I want to do is I want to make like a guard tower of some sort for like a more primitive, less modern kind of race. So what I want to do is I want to try to use as much natural stuff in this build as I can. To simulate that people with less refined materials are making it. So we want to roughly get some pieces that are about the same size. And we want to start fleshing out our tower. These don't have to be perfect. I think we've had that talk before. But we're looking for some ballpark stuff. Alright, so we kind of want to get a rough idea of what the shape of it's going to be. We're going to need some little stuff that's kind of the same size to get some that's about how big we want this top to be in one direction. So let's get some of this stuff, take off that big chunky part, get them about the same. There we go. Alright. What I have here, these are actually just a bunch of pieces of vines that were kind of creeping over to my neighbor's side of the fence. So I just went over there and took them. They're pretty dry and dead. Okay. See, we have some sticks. We're going to need some stuff for our platform. Now, the smart way to go for a platform is probably to do something that's not a stick, so that the miniatures sit pretty flush. So we can use cardstock or popsicle sticks or whatever it may be. And we're going to need some kind of twine. I had this packaging string twine here. I don't know if I like that. It's really fragile. But I have this other stuff that I have no idea where it came from. It's full of spider webs. It's cotton. I think we're going to use that. Alright, so we got our base. And now normally, the first thing you got to remember with these CDs is if you want stuff to stick to them, you got to scratch them up. So what I've done is I put 2 pieces of tape over the hole, and I've cut some lines in it, and I've hit it with a wire brush. And actually, it might not hurt us to kind of make sure the edges are going to take glue and paint. Alright. Now, you've seen me prep a CD before if you watch the channel a lot. If you don't, then you haven't. But basically, we are not going to prep our base till we're going to do our basing, like our flock and stuff, last. We're going to do some sand and some bigger rocks. But what we want to do is we want to get an idea of how this is going to set up. So, for now, a little dab of glue just to kind of put stuff in place. I should have probably got some glue out if we're going to do this. A little dab of glue. Another little dab of glue. We're going to have to trim that down some probably. Alright. A little dab of glue. Hold that in place. And we want to take these chunky parts off the side. Now, if you have a bunch of loose bark like that, you know that's going to come off in the process. You can get a plastic brush or a wire brush or a toothbrush and just kind of knock all that crap off all over the floor of your workspace. And anything that's resistant and sticks is likely going to be something that stays for the ride and becomes part of your texture, okay? Okay, a little dab of glue. Boop. Okay. Oh, that did not stick as I had hoped. There we go. Alright, so we've got the base of our structure here kind of going. And my intent is to have it set up to where these act as natural railings. So we want to get some spacers in here. And we want to kind of cut those flush on the ends so they don't look like a perfect cut, but they're not. So here's a good spacer for that. There we go, we'll shove that in there. A little dab of glue, little dab of glue. Remember, we can take a lighter or a blowtorch or whatever you have and kind of melt that off after the fact. So just let that get in place, let it sit for a moment. Get another spacer going. We got a chunky piece here. Boop. Boop. Oh, look at that. Terrible things have happened to us here. Once we get this established as to how it's going to be set up, it's going to be very easy for us to come back and reinforce things, okay? So don't panic if things aren't turning out perfectly right off the bat. So right now, we know that these are pretty loose, and we want to keep working, but we don't want them to be impossible to maneuver around. So just take your glue stick, run down a little bit, add some fake texture to that wood, and then drag it onto your base and let it solidify. Okay. Hold it for a moment. It'll sturdy up. Maybe I need a cold gun too, huh? Instead of just my blow dryer. And then you can actually really go out of the way and try to make this look like roots and stuff if you wish. That's not what I'm about right now. We're going to turn this around. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to sturdy this crap up. Just coming down a little bit. There we go. Come down off the structure. Get it in there a little bit and then stretch it around. Now on this one you'll see I didn't brush this, and I'm going to regret that later, I promise. Brushing off all the loose crap is pretty important. Now, someone told me that you have to bake wooden stuff before you use it. Well, if I use old dead stuff and I'm only worried about bacteria, that bacteria is going to be sealed in with clear coat and everything else. So I'm not really going to make a stinky panic about that. All right, so what we want to do is we want to get our frame out, and we want to try to, whoop, drop my glue gun. We want to try to make this as level as possible. And I'm not saying pull out a level. I don't even have mine hanging here. I think I took it for a project upstairs, but these are primitive people. These are not modern master craftsmen. So they're not going to have the levelest house, or structure, I should say. This is definitely not a house. And we're going to need a way for them to get up here too. The natural thought you would have is that they would tie or nail some cross members up one of these main supports, but let's get something a little longer in there for a side support. Now this stuff we're actually going to end up gluing in place, and the ropes are going to come around this to make it look like it's part of the real build, is that it's tied there, not glued there, okay? But we're not going to do all the gluing at this moment. We're going to use my normal non-measuring techniques. And there's going to be some ridiculous amount of overlap, and we'll snip that off. Okay. Remember when I said I was going to regret not having brushed that off? This is where that conversation is proven. Alright, so we want to wrap this string. Those cutters are probably not good for string. Let me get some scissors out here. You want to get a length. And the first thing you want to do is you want to anchor it in with a little bit of glue, so that as you pull it around, it doesn't look silly. It stays taut. So we're going to let that sit for a minute. We're going to come back up here to the top layer. We're going to work on our platform a little bit. So we know that orcs are not master craftsmen. Well, in my world they're not. I don't know about yours. So if they had a mistake, like for example, if you look at this, this does not look structurally stable. So they might get it up there and notice that it wobbles, and then they come back in and add to it to strengthen it up. Because again, in most settings and in most thoughts of people have, orcs are primitive. They're not. They're barbaric. Now, in your world, they might not be, but in the new edition, I hear that nobody's different from anybody and that everybody's modern and good. But we know that that's probably not likely. So we're going to take this string around here, if you can see what I'm doing, and we're going to make it look like some orc has hastily tied that together. I'm going to come just on the back side here, put a little dab of glue, overlap that, rip that glue around, get the loose off, snip that. We're going to do the same thing around this, trying to capture a similar effect. So we're going to get a little bit of glue, get it started. There you go. Take your excess glue away, you don't want that. We'll cut a few of these. You don't want to make them super long. Because you're just going to be wasting some string. It's warm in here today. Alright, now this first one should be ready to start the wrap. Let's get in here. Start roughly twining this around so that it looks like it actually physically does some support. And we don't need it to be perfect. Then we're going to come over here on the back just like we did on the other side. A little dab of glue to solid that up. Hold that in place. You see that? Just a little. There we go. Get our scissors, chop off the excess. Come over here to the next one. Now this one's a little short, but that's okay. Perfection is not an issue. Dab of glue. Pull that over. Slide that glue down. Snip off the excess. Bring this around, bring this up over, get a little bit of glue here. Alright, we got a lot of spider webs, man. Steal some of these spider webs. Take out our magic tinder twig here. Get rid of some of these spider webs while we can. Might burn a little bit of your rope. I didn't, but you could. Just keep that in mind. You don't want to hold your flame over your rope for too long. Alright. So now we've got a pretty sturdy platform here. And when it's sitting flush, it doesn't wobble or anything. This is a decent looking construction. People can touch this and hit it and move it around a little bit and it won't break. Let's talk about doing the cross members. Like I said, we want to try to make the platform on top as straight as possible. So in order to do that, we are going to first brush this piece off that we're going to use. Remember what I said, if it didn't brush off easily, it's likely going to be able to remain there. Okay, so you see how this is curved? What I'm doing is I'm trying to use the flat spot on top. So if you look at it this way, it's more flat. I'm trying to use that to my advantage right here. And I'm not centering this. I want my platform to stick out in one direction. And that one direction would be representative of kind of like away from the orc camp is my thought. Now this side is a little higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of this, split it, I'm just going to glue that on here as a bumper to bring that up a little bit. Take another look at it. It's much better. All right, and on this side, I'm going to use something thinner for my support, because roughly the same length. Because this side's lower, so if this side's higher, what we're going to do to fix that is use a thinner stick so it kind of levels out. That's all. Same thing. Take my natural curve here, straighten it out the best I can. All right, now we want to take a look at this from the top and see how level it is. So if you look, it's fairly level now. It's not as level as if, professional craftsmen had done it, but, if some orcs are just doing the best they can, it'll cut it. So we're going to take some string and we're going to do up our top platform here. So just get a little bit in the groove. There you go. Just a little bit. Try to make that look like it's tied. A lot of this is going to be hidden underneath, so we don't need to worry about that too much. Get your excess glue off. Give that a second. Snippy, snippy. More rope. Now this rope isn't going to be like a top feature of this craft. The top feature of this craft is that you showed up and made it. Don't let anybody pick your stuff up and criticize it. These people didn't come here to be critics. They came here to play your role-playing game, and you're providing terrain. So don't let people get mouthy with you about your stuff. If somebody has something to say, pull them to the side and say, hey man, you know what? I took the time to make this, to make the table as nice as I can. I have a life besides crafting. And just let it go there. And if you have people that are too negative in your group, in general, it's time to get rid of them. Okay? A little bit of string there. If you want to look at where we're at and bring it up. Starting to look more organic and natural, yeah? Yeah. I'm going to thread this through. I don't know if that's really threading, but we'll say that's threading. And we're going to bring this across, and we're just going to do our dab of glue. Boop. There you go. Alright, so now we have a pretty good beginning, and we need our boards. So you have tons of options. You can use popsicle sticks, tongue depressors, cardstock, cardboard, anything you want. But what I want to do is I want some random gross boards. So this is just a like a cheap clay sculpting tool, and I just want these boards to look a little textured and cartoony to kind of add to this fantasy vibe. And then I want to kind of rough up my wood a little bit so that every plank is not perfect. And you can just do this quickly, or you can spend a lot of time on this step. That's up to you, man, woman, child, whatever you are. Really doesn't matter, man. Probably be a lot better looking with wood than something else. If you were really dedicated, you could split some of these little miniature logs. Oh, we missed a whole piece of string on this side quickly. We didn't do any string over here. Let's get the dab of glue. Can you see what we're doing there? Who knows? Dab of glue. Come under. Loop it through. Thread it through, whatever. And the reason I'm doing all these a little bit different, like I said, is because these are primitive craftsmen. These are not your modern... I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've helped build houses, and I've done a lot of construction, like side jobs and stuff in my life. And even I could probably not go out in my backyard and build something this nice. Mostly because I'm tired and old. I still have that kind of love left in me. Just glue it down. There you go. Look at that. Almost like we know what we're doing. Rough cutting it. Not measuring it, just kind of getting an idea where it's going to be. I'm going to rough this up. Boo! There we go. Just how I wanted it. Oh, that worked out nice. I have a different tool I'd rather use to make those lines, actually. Let me get that one. This one's got like a spear tip on it. It's just like real, it's sharp, and it does this real easy. That one that has like the dull knife blade that used to be sharp on it is, it's not ideal. Okay, so we don't want these to be butted directly up against each other either, all right? We want these to be like a little crooked, a little off. Your miniatures aren't going to fall through that gap. It's tiny. So don't panic about that kind of stuff. Get some of this. We got a lot of spider webs here, dudes. And rough up the edges. Now you could prep like a bunch of these in advance and have like a box of these, and I would be lying to you if I told you there actually might be something like that down there. But I want you to see how fast it is to go from start to finish on this stuff without having everything prepped in advance. This is something anybody can do in their spare time, even if you just have about an hour a night, or not even. Okay, we're skewing that one too. See that? We just want them to be I don't listen to music while I'm crafting and recording, one, because there's already like the backup noise of my fan there that's kind of disruptive, and I don't have like a noise canceling microphone down here or anywhere. I have one on my computer, but that doesn't help us. Oh, here's something you could do. Just thinking about this. You could use this brush, this metal brush, and add some more micro textures, but I'm not really about that life. So, all right, we're almost done with our platform up here. Then we got to worry about how our steps are going to go. This is a good project if you have like some of these bad, like this popsicle stick has like a knot in it. This is good for these kind of projects right here. Okay. Because you don't want to use those when you're doing some like nice floorboards for a mansion or something, or if you're doing siding on a modern building or whatever. You don't want that crap. But for this, it can actually be ideal to use those. So if you dig through and find the ones that they're in every box of popsicle sticks, I promise you. None of them. I've never opened a box of popsicle sticks, no matter where I bought it, and not had some wonky crap in there. All right. Okay, just about done here, and then we're going to take a break. I'm going to go prime it. All right, this will be our last one, it looks like. Now, the question is, do we need railings? Well, I don't know if any of your orcs have OSHA certification, but I think that they would probably want to the ability to put a flag on this to show who owns the land. And they might have a railing of some sort, maybe. We don't know. So let's get this. We got our top. Let's look at that up close. Okay. Look at that. It's coming a little loose right there. We can just put some glue in there. Rub it around. Catch it into that rope. That'll sturdy it right up. Come around to the inside. Do that too. Okay. All right, so let's talk about railings. Railings can or cannot exist here. Not a big deal. If you want some railings, simply get your pieces, little thin pieces, take them in here, shove it underneath, and drag it up and twist it so that as much of that glue contacts with the surface as you can. And then you don't even have to use real ropes. If you just get your glue and just kind of slowly walk it around, you can make that look like a rope if you need to. I'm lazy and we're running out of time here because I don't like the videos to get too long. Okay, pull that down, wrap it around. Get that in place. Then simulate a rope. Boop. It's going to look alright. It's not going to be perfect. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'll tell you, if you tried to build something like this and make it look symmetrical, you would be unhappy with the result. I used to be like real anal about that kind of stuff before. And by anal, I mean anal retentive, not some of the gross things some of you have just thought. And I'll be honest with you. Get that underneath, twist it around, get it in place. Come back and do our fake ropes around here. But yeah, if you build these with perfection in mind, they never look like they're like a natural orc or goblin or whatever tower. They start to look like some kind of man-made structure. Like the humans took the time to come out here and do this. I don't know what I had a brain fart there. Okay, so for the top parts here, it might behoove you to how do you say it? Behoove you to actually use some string here if you wish. I am lazy and we are not doing that. Where are my steps going to be? Probably on that side. We'll do this as the front part. So we're going to have a railing here. And you have to think of how tall a miniature is, right? So grab whatever mini you have laying around. That's some dude I have pulled out. And you want to take that railing to where he might or might not fall off of that. And then twist this in your glue a little bit so it gets on there. I'm going to do some fake string. Get this hot glue gun. Okay. And we're going to leave the back open because that's where we're going to have our ladder coming up. And you're thinking to yourself right now, what ladder can we possibly build that isn't terrible? Well, I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it as I'm talking to you. Alright. Cool. That worked out nice. Little lack of measuring goes a long way. Twisting that a little bit so it kind of grabs in there. Same thing over here. Now these railings do not have to be parallel to the ground. Alright, we want our ladder to come back here. So what I'm going to do with the ladder is I'm going to do something that's not going to be an actual realistic thing. What I want to do is be able to simulate that during combat there could or could not be climbing on this, right? So instead of making it realistic, what I want to do is I want to get some kind of steps in here, okay? So what I want to do is about a ½ inch up. I want to get a board shoved in here. And you want to pull it out a little bit so where a miniature can stand on it. And you want to just kind of come under here with some glue, support that. Okay, so a miniature can step here once this dries. I implore you to do a better job than me. I'm going to come up about 1 inch from that first rung and kind of make a second spot where a miniature could stand. And you want, you know, this has a natural slope from the way I designed it, okay? So what you want to do, it's a little high, let's come down. You want to bring it in a little bit. You want to make sure you can still stand a miniature there. So the trick is to know where you put your miniature. Okay. So most miniatures do not occupy the entirety of the base, and these will be the ones that you can easily stand on these kind of steps, okay? You don't want to come too far in. Just have some overlap there. You're probably thinking, oh dude, that is not realistic for an orc. Yeah, we know. Orcs probably do not have giant, nice 1x8s that they're using for steps. And again, I told you this part wouldn't be as realistic, didn't I? Come in just a little bit. Now, I did not have a plan walking into this, except for, man, I found some sticks and I was excited. I didn't find them. I was, cleaning up something in the yard and acquired them, but okay, I lost that piece I was cutting for steps. Alright, we're over 30 minutes, and I really apologize for that. I try not to make these crafts last all day. So we'll have to paint this one really fast to make up for it, alright? And one more here. Too short. Mistakes were made. You're like, boom, just measure it. No. Can't measure it, man. Take away from what it is. Okay. Get that last one in place. Can a miniature stand on all these? Let's check. No. Let's see. Yes. No. Yes. No. Not really. Alright, well, it didn't work how we wanted, so let's pull them out. Back to simulation talk. That didn't work the way I planned it. Well, I didn't really plan it the way I was just doing it, so let's go back and let's just say now that they're climbing standard rungs to get up here. Sorry, folks. I was thinking we were going to do something cool. I was incorrect. And we wasted a bunch of time doing that. But I'll tell you what, we made the smart call. Because the minute we realized we were wasting time, we yanked it off and started something else. It's actually one of the reasons why it's so good to use miniatures when you're crafting. Because if you have an idea and you think it's going to go a certain way, you can kind of test that during the build. I'm just fortunate because down here in my shop, this is also where all my unpainted minis live. My some people call it a pile of shame or whatever. I just kind of call it my rainy day projects. This is where my rainy day projects hang out. Alright, so we know that this is not the glorified, beautiful steps that we wanted. I'm sorry about that. But, guess what? It's going to be alright. Alright, so to save time, I'm not going to show you since I have other videos on it. But I'm going to clean up spider webs. I am going to clean up spider webs. I'm going to paint the base with some glue. I'm going to sprinkle some sand and put some large stones on it. Predominantly, I'm worried about putting large stones around these to act as if they think it's going to be real support for those. And then I'm going to prime it and maybe base coat it depending. And then we'll come back and paint it after a while. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Happy Sunday, and hope to see you soon.